What's up, guys? This is Draco Backpack Sack 22 giving to you guys my Mekk-Knight Orcust deck profile for the June 2025 format. This is a deck that I really like just because the Orcust cards were one of my favorite decks when they first came out, and also the Mekk-Knight cards are some of my other favorite cards, and the fact that they have Gersu now is something that we never really experimented too much with just because the Mekk-Knights kind of got a little bit outdated. And the Orcust cards were also a little bit power crept, and then we got Harp back to 3, and then we also now have the Orcust support with the Link 1 and Ellen Gersu as well. So this is a deck that I've been kind of eyeing for a while, and I believe it finally makes sense. So I know many people are playing Mitsurugi Orcust or Horus Orcust or even the Fiendsmith cards, which are all very powerful, but at the end of the day, none of those archetypes search your best card, which is just Gersu. So the Mekk-Knight cards also allow you to set up a floodgate where even if I play into Fulos or Perulia and give my opponent whatever 5-6 draws, I feel very confident that my end board is going to win me the game. Even though it doesn't look that impressive, there have been multiple times where I'm able to end on my board and my opponent just can't crack it unless they open a breaker like Duster or something like that. So anyway, guys, yeah, I'll give the rundown on the deck and you guys can decide if it's for you or not. But anyway, explaining the Mekk-Knight cards a little bit, essentially they work in columns by having multiple cards in the same column. So the best one being purple, it's the most versatile. Playing one blue sky, very impactful when it does touch down, but it's more of a going second card. And Indigo Eclipse is actually more of a going first card because it does help you negate multiple columns within just bring back one monster. Then, of course, we have the Bridge card, which is Triple Gersu. This is probably more of a Mekk-Knight support card now with the Orcust Link 1 than in the Orcust deck. I actually think that this card is even better as a Mekk-Knight just because it provides columns going first while also providing that Mekk-Knight name while also remaining an Orcust name. So it's just an extremely versatile card. This is the entire reason to play the deck. I think that if this card ever got hit, this version of the deck would just not work. But right now it's at 3, so we're going to play the broken cards while we can. 3 Harp, which is your main name for the Orcust package. 2 Skeleton, just 1 Nightmare, and then another Bridge card is the World Legacy World Crown, so I'm going to kind of put this in the middle as well. So essentially, you want to obviously open Gersu, but if you don't, you can open like a pair of any of these cards, except for Nightmare. So like if you open Skeleton plus Indigo, it's like full combo. Or if you open like Blue plus Harp, it's still full combo. But obviously the best 2 cards you could probably open are either Gersu plus Harp or Gersu plus Purple or even Purple plus Harp. So this is like the top tier cards. These are the bottom tier cards. These are kind of your requirements. But if you see them with any one of these top row cards, it's still very, very good. So yeah, I mean, you can side out certain cards. Like I usually side out Indigo going second, believe it or not, and potentially a copy of Skeleton depending on the matchup. But for the most part, these cards stay in. So yeah, it's just a very strong package. I think the Mekk-Knight cards are good, and when your opponent messes up their columns, they're even better, and they can kind of also put your opponent on tilt, which I kind of love those cards, to be honest with you. So that's pretty much the core engine. And then I do play one more sub-engine, and it's more or less just for tempo, which is the Bestial engine. So I play just 2 Lubellion, 1 Magnamut, and 1 Druisworm. So this is just like, you know, very, very simple, you know, just to set up Regained and to have like another like presence on the field. If your opponent summons, you can bring back a Bestial, and it just gets you a lot of tempo going, potentially some free draws, which can help you see your broken cards more. And then also Regain being a spell and trap to help fill a column is also really nice, help going second and sometimes going first. But I felt like there were no amazing hand traps to play outside of Ash and Droll. Even Imperm, like it seemed weak at points, especially going first. I'm not a big believer in mating Molcharmies in every single deck. I think that this is one of the decks that I would veer away from that with. Just because the Mekk-Knights need columns, and I feel like you're already playing cards that are not the greatest going first in some of the Mekk-Knight cards, so I didn't want to play too many of those, whereas these cards just covered all your bases going first and going second. So I felt by playing 8 hand traps, while this is not like enough by itself, I am pairing it with 3 Dark Ruler. So I feel like if you open Dark Ruler plus one of these hand traps, it's enough to cover most boards, even Mitsurugi. And on top of this, I'm also playing 2 Foolish Burial Goods with 1 Laughs. And I feel like this also helps stop a lot, including a White Binder and most of the Mitsurugi rituals as well. So yeah, I really like this. So anyway, this is pretty much your non-engine, and I'm going to reintroduce Foolish Burial Goods later as well because it's also like a starter. So this is pretty much all of the cards I'm using to try to stop my opponent. And then on top of that, I also have 2 of the Spell Card Monster Reborn, which can help disrupt my opponent's graveyard, along with 1 Called by the Grave. So this can also be an extender as well as like a defensive card. This is like a ceiling re-raising card as well as lowering my opponent's ceiling potentially. And I just think that this is probably one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's very like underrated card, and I think people are starting to catch up on it now. But it's like a similar card like Called by the Grave as well. Protects your play as well as stopping your opponent. So those cards tend to be very good. And then, again, for extenders / starters, Foolish Burial Goods also falls into this category because you could just send Crescendo, and while you can't really do much many Mekk-Knight plays, you could still get into your Orcust engine, which then in turn could help up your Mekk-Knight package for the following turn. So 1 regular Foolish Burial and 1 World Legacy Succession. These cards also help you extend past Ash Blossom Imperm. And I'm also playing 2 copies of World Legacy Memory. So Memory is basically an E-Tele for Mekk-Knights, but it restricts you for the rest of the turn, locking you into Mekk-Knights. So what's cool is the new Orcust Link 4, Ellen Gersu, is a Mekk-Knight card technically. So if you are at a point where you're able to put like Galatea plus another monster on the field, you can use Memory to summon a Gersu and then link everything into the Ellen Gersu. So sometimes when your opponent is trying to telegraph your plays to stop you going to Link 4, which is basically your best play, you can have Memory, which could bail you out. But more than likely, you're going to actually set this as a trap because you're going to have this with the secret set, and you're going to flip it to summon an Indigo on your opponent's turn into a column your opponent activates in, negating that column and potentially another column after you use its effect to move. So Memory is very strong. And then the last 2 like spell cards that are like engine requirements is 1 Babble and 1 Regained. I feel like both these cards are fine. If you have a play, like it usually means that you're going to end on more than Babble. You have the Babble with the Crescendo, and the same thing with the Regained. Like sometimes you could soft brick or open like Bestials plus like a Skeleton or something, and this can help you draw into something impactful. So it's quite nice. And then the last 2 trap cards, I play 1 World Legacy Secret and 1 Crescendo. So the Secret is the reason why I play the Mekk-Knights. This basically says you could bring back a level 5 or higher monster. And then another effect is when any monster activates in the same column as a Mekk-Knight card, Mekk-Knight monster, you negate that effect and it checks on resolution. So like if it activates something, Secret, bring back something, and then it's negated. And then like if they try to activate something else in another column, you can move it over to negate. And so the big thing is that like your Harp can summon a Gersu if you have Babble on the field, and so you have extra negates from your Harps and from your Skeleton, as well as your Link 4 being a Mekk-Knight name. So you could always negate pretty much every column, which is quite nice. So yeah, that's the main deck. I believe it's 41 cards. And now getting into the extra deck. For the Link 1s, I play 1 Galatea I and 1 Salamangreat Almirage. Almirage is probably like the 15th card in the extra deck, but I do quite like it just because of the fact that it can help build columns with just hand traps. So you could like normal summon Ash, normal summon Droll. So I really want like all of my hands to pretty much get me out of the early game. So if I open something like purple plus Droll plus a spell or trap card, you know, I could still potentially play. So it's, you know, it's not needed, but it helps very weird hands, you know, to get into the game. If you play, you basically win, so it's worth playing cards like that. 3 Galatea. I think 3 is rather necessary. I would never want to lose because I don't have the 3rd, so I'm just playing 3. And then 1 Mekk-Knight of the Morning Star. Link 2 helps you search your spell or trap, and then after this you can go into Lib. So usually the line is you get the World Crown off of your Galatea Eye, and then you special summon it, you go into the regular Galatea, you banish whatever starter you had, whatever Orcust card you had with the Link 1. Even if it's Harp, you banish the Harp to use the Galatea Eye because it doesn't Dark Lock you. But what you're doing is you're putting a World Legacy card in the grave by summoning your crown. So then you overlay Ding on top of your Galatea, you attach whatever you banished, whether it be Harp or Skeleton or Nightmare, and then you just link into Lib because you're not Dark Locked and you have a World Legacy card in the grave. So you can then set the secret or the memory off of your Lib. So, and then going second, you could shuffle a card back. So that's pretty cool to play through Druis Worm and Baldrake. So, yeah, it's pretty good. And then 1 IP, 1 SP, 1 Unicorn, 1 Elungursu. Like, I don't think you have to play Unicorn, but it's just another good out to things. I think hypothetically you could also play Longursu. I think Longursu doesn't come up a lot for me. The only time it really comes up is when you have to start with Foolish Burial Goods to send Crescendo and you're Dark Machine locked. So that's like the only time where I would want Longursu over Unicorn. Every other time I pretty much want Unicorn. And then for the other extra deck monsters, I just play 2 Ding. Like the second one comes up very rarely, but I want one in case one gets bestialed or like I have to use one in a bad situation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then Zeus for just the line going second, and then Typhon for Ryziel variants, I guess. But yeah, anyway, that's the deck list. The combo is probably going to post the combo at some point because I know a lot of people are going to be asking about that. But essentially the idea is you want to be able to get to a Mekk-Knight name plus a World Legacy card in hand plus another extender, which Gursu alone is just all of that. But if you have, like, again, any World Legacy card in your hand, you could pretty much do it with a way to play. So yeah, I'll post the combo in pretty shortly and hope you guys enjoy it. So I'll see you guys in the next one.